Development is a process of planned, deliberate, sustained, gradual growth, progress, and positive change over time in all aspects of life. It connotes an individual's, society's, or a nation's journey from primitive past to what constitutes modernity and the trappings that come with it for the enhancement of the living standards of their citizenry. For Nigeria as a nation, this journey began on 1st October 1960. Indeed, it's been an odyssey which has given the country a unique story that underscores endurance, tenacity, courage, and hope. Despite numerous challenges, Nigeria, sustained by these virtues, has stood out not only as the most populous nation in Africa, but also as a country with significant achievements that have been recorded as gains of nationhood.
Fellow Nigerians, better days are ahead of us. The challenge of the moment must always make us believe in ourselves. We are Nigerians, resilient and tenacious.
Like a baobab tree, democracy only grows more resilient with time.
In Parliament, we are legislating to secure the future. In partnership with the executive, we have passed laws to confront insecurity and rebuild trust.
We all see where the areas are that need improvement. I believe that there will be cooperation.
Every dispensation in governance for a nation like ours holds promises, hope, and aspirations for its people. These are rooted in the vision of the forebears of the civilization and nurtured over time. The entity known as Nigeria owes its existence to fascinating historical developments dating back to the amalgamation, which was an offshoot of colonization. The sovereignty of the indigenous kingdoms, which had existed before the coming of the Europeans, ended with the Benin Massacre of 1897.
What really shaped the history of Nigeria during this period was the incursion of the Europeans. It was not only the British that came to Nigeria, to these kingdoms. No, the Portuguese made their incursion into Benin Kingdom, although not politically economic interest. The French also penetrated and invaded Kanem-Borno Empire at a point and colonized the area for about 3-4 years. The French also occupied significant part of the Efik and the Bibio during this period. So you can see European interest in Nigeria ever before the issue of amalgamation.
A pseudo-amalgamation was introduced in 1906, a development which merged the Old Rivers Protectorate and the Lagos Colony for the name Nigeria to emerge for the first time on the global landscape. A seminal figure in the evolution of Nigeria was the British colonial administrator, Sir Frederick Lugard, who served as the first Governor General of Nigeria between 1914 and 1919.
He was the captain of the ship of the Royal Niger Company. So he knew virtually every place because he navigated through the sea and inland. In fact, at a point he involved in the local politics of the people before the 1914. So he was the best man for the job. So he having governed Uganda, Hong Kong, India, with a lot of experience. In 1912, he suggested to the British government, which they obliged. So in 1914, both the existing northern region, northern Nigeria, and the southern Nigeria were merged together, okay? And that was the amalgamation.
Eventually, After 50 years of colonization, Nigeria began to fight for self-governance, with the struggle starting in July 1947, when a delegation of the Legislative Council, led by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Jaja Nwachukwu, visited London.
We have come to the United Kingdom as delegates of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, chosen by our people, in order to demand for a more democratic constitution, to modify 4 laws affecting our lands, minerals, and chiefs, and to request the British government to grant us more political responsibility to enable us to take an active part in the management of our affairs within the framework of the British Empire.
That action made the British government to incline its ears in the direction of Nigeria and its quest for independence. This was demonstrated in many ways, including the Queen's visit in 1956. Yet, Nigeria's attainment of independence was not a tea party.
The independence of Nigeria was doggedly fought and dearly won. During our protracted battles, some of our heroes and heroines fell by the wayside. Some went the way of all flesh. Some paid with their lives. Some were incarcerated. Some lost their jobs. Some sacrificed their fortunes. Some were ostracized, while some were victimized and made to suffer indignity because they dared to demand freedom for Nigeria in our lifetime.
And so, the long-cherished dream of an independent nation was realized on 1st October 1960, a date of dates in the nation's history.
It is now my duty and privilege to hand to the Prime Minister of the Federation, as the representative of the people of Nigeria, the constitutional instruments embodying the independence of the Federation of Nigeria.
With independence attained and the republic status attained in 1963, Nigeria, blessed with abundant natural and human resources and other endowments, took its destiny in its hands. For guidance on a systematic approach, the indigenous governments formulated the National Development Plan, which was implemented from 1962 to 1968. Specifically, the plan aimed to achieve self-sustained economic growth and independence by focusing on developing infrastructure, increasing the rate of economic growth, and improving the standard of living. Its objectives included fostering savings, increasing investments, and developing human resources. Unfortunately, the lofty blueprint was disrupted by corruption, poor infrastructure, political instability, ethnic and religious tensions, military incursion in governance, and a civil war which raged between January 1967 and May 1970.
I, Major General Philip Effiong, officer administering the government of the Republic of Biafra, now wish to make the following declaration: that we affirm we are loyal Nigerian citizens and accept the authority of the Federal Military Government of Nigeria, that we accept the existing administrative and political structure of the Federation of Nigeria, that any future constitutional arrangement will be worked out by representatives of the people of Nigeria, that the Republic of Biafra hereby ceases to exist.
Other inhibitions of national development were poor infrastructure and development gaps, insecurity, weak institutions, unemployment, and brain drain. Although some of these problems are still with us, successive administrations have taken steps to address them, ensuring that the nation strides towards El Dorado. This has resulted in manifest advancements in all sectors and ramifications for Nigerians across the country. There is no gainsaying the fact that the health of the people is the health of a nation. To this end, the nation has accorded appreciable attention to the sector. This has led to advancements in medical education, as witnessed in the establishment of professional training institutions and public hospitals as centers of excellence. Also, there has been improved access to financing and health care through reforms like the National Health and Basic Healthcare Acts. What's more, Nigeria successfully managed pandemics like HIV/AIDS, whose virus arrived in the country in 1981, Ebola virus in 2014, and COVID-19 in 2020. Another turning point in the health sector occurred in 1985 when Professor Olukoye Ransom Kuti served as the health minister.
He really is who you can consider the grandfather of primary healthcare in Nigeria, where he enshrined it as part of our health system. And at the time, it was structured such that the responsibility for primary healthcare lied primarily at the local government level, while secondary healthcare, the general hospitals, were the responsibility of states, and the tertiary healthcare, teaching hospitals, federal medical centers, specialist hospitals, stayed under the control of the Federal Ministry of Health.
The nation has witnessed the emergence of many private hospitals, many of which are equipped with high-end equipment acquired for specialized medical treatments. Nigeria's aviation sector has soared to a high level since independence, growing from a humble beginning to a modern, globally connected industry.
From 1-2 airports in 1960, from few airstrips in 1960, today we have multitude of airports in virtually every state in Nigeria. I'm not saying every state, but virtually every state in Nigeria. And those states that are yet to have airports are clamoring for airport to be established in their states. We're not only having national airports, international airports, many companies and individuals, business entities are requesting for creation of airstrips, which my ministry is responsible for giving such approvals. Therefore, we have several aerodromes scattered across the country. It has helped our country greatly in moving forward.
The airports then were in Lagos, Kano, and Port Harcourt. At that time, aviation was under the Ministry of Transport. The following year, the Nigeria Airways was established as the national carrier to replace the West African Airways Corporation, which was owned by the 4 British West African colonies of the Gambia, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria. From then on, the sector flourished with the expansion of facilities at airports to accommodate the landing of bigger crafts like the Boeing series and the opening of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, in 1979 by the Obasanjo administration.
In a few aspects of our national endeavor, is the pressure for modernization so intense today as in our aviation industry. Those involved in or familiar with the industry know that aviation is a growing, fast-changing, and time-saving industry. It is an important and functional aspect of national development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure and honor in declaring this airport formally opened for the greater progress of Nigeria, closer understanding between mankind, and greater glory of God.
To regulate the industry, ensure safety, and streamline operations, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority was created in 1989, followed by the establishment of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria in 1985 and the Nigerian Airport Management Agency in 1999, marking a period of national pride and economic growth.
We hosted World Cup in Nigeria. We hosted Commonwealth Heads of Government in Nigeria. We hosted several events in Nigeria that boosted the economy of this country. They couldn't have come into Nigeria without our safe and efficient aviation sector. 1. 2, we have farm produce that are coming out of Nigeria. One of the ways we take them out is through the aviation industry. Mineral resources, aviation industry. Entertainment, aviation industry. Every kind of business you think of, not even movement of human beings out of Nigeria, really is through the aviation sector. Therefore, one can safely say that the major contributor to Nigeria's economy from 1960 to date is our Ministry of Aviation.
The sector developed further in 2010s when the airports, which had increased to 22, were upgraded, even as the country achieved an ICAO category status, which allowed direct flights to the US. Still on aviation, the African Aviation and Aerospace University was established in Abuja to train aviation professionals. In the same year, the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau was established to enhance accident investigation and safety. After independence, formal laws, rules, and regulations were put in place to guide the administration and activities within the education sector. Hence, the country has registered milestone gains in education by introducing and implementing policies that ensured increased access to schooling through initiatives like the Universal Primary Education (UPE) and the Universal Basic Education (UBE). Specifically, between 1960 and 1970, the number of schools and universities increased significantly, expanding access to education. This was boosted by the Universal Primary Education, which was launched in 1976 to provide free primary education. It was replaced by the Universal Basic Education in 1999 and expanded to a compulsory and free 9-year basic school policy encompassing primary and junior secondary school. Many states of the Federation, including Akwa Ibom, stood out in its implementation.
Every single child that is in this state today obtains free education. It doesn't matter whether you are from Akwa Ibom or you're not from Akwa Ibom, because I believe that this country could be one, and we must give opportunity to all our dear children to grow up to become great potentials. And again, I also have this other policy that if you educate your child and you don't educate your neighbor's child, you are preparing armed robbers to attack your graduate children in future.
Not resting on its oars, the government has consistently developed the sector by building educational facilities to a point where we now have specialized training institutions so that Nigerians do not necessarily have to travel abroad to gain expertise. The past 20 years has seen the rise in private universities offering alternative options in higher education. One of the gains of Nigeria's nationhood over the years has been a significant decline in sectional consciousness in the conduct of national affairs and the upsurge in unity in national cohesion. Some persons have often criticized the country's amalgamation in 1914, via the unification of the British Northern and Southern Protectorates into the colony and protectorate of Nigeria. This sentiment is hinged on the premise that the constituent parts of the country related as strange bedfellows in a single administrative unit, hence breeding divisiveness, mutual suspicion, and disunity at independence in 1960. Obviously, national disunity permeated critical aspects of Nigeria's national life at independence, largely due to the rigidity of sectional consciousness in social relations. However, the Gowon administration made conscious efforts to deepen the bonds of national unity and cohesion at a very critical period of the nation's history.
We have fought a long, bitter battle, and it has ended in a victory for common sense, victory for the unity of this country. And we have got cause to thank all the people of this country for what they have done to help to keep this country one. But I think above all, the gallant officers and men who had given their lives that this nation might live.
As a way of breaking ethnic and tribal affiliations, which were the features of the original structure, General Gowon broke the country into 12 states, largely using natural physical geographical features as boundaries. In furtherance of this move, he introduced the National Youth Service Scheme in 1973, primarily to foster national integration and social cohesion.
It has been generally accepted that if Nigeria is to make rapid progress on all fronts internally, and if she is to make her mark on the continent of Africa, and indeed in the Committee of Nations, then her youth must be fully mobilized and be prepared to offer willingly and without asking for rewards in return, their best in the service of their nation at all times. The establishment of the National Youth Service Corps is the first step towards the realization of this lofty goal.
In the past 52 years, the scheme has exposed young graduates to new cultural areas, offering them opportunities to interact with fellow youths of different cultural backgrounds. This way, they can appreciate the beauty inherent in cultural diversity. It is position that has helped them dismantle the old walls of ethnocentric isolation and prejudice, while embracing the cherished values of understanding and respect, tolerant and peaceable coexistence. In 1977, Nigeria hosted the second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, FESTAC 77, in which about 56 African countries participated. It was so grand that it has never been replicated. Decades down the line, the National Theatre, an architectural masterpiece and cultural landmark where Nigeria hosted events, lay in shade dilapidation until July 2021, when it was renovated. Nigerian youths are starting their stuff in the global entertainment industry, bringing accolades to their country. Currently, Nigeria is the sixth largest music exporting nation, last valued in 2023 at $9 billion, Nigeria's arts, culture, and entertainment industry is projected to grow to $13.6 billion by 2028. It is driven by its vibrant Afrobeat music scene and the prolific Nollywood film industry.
We have a lot of talents in Nigeria. Nigeria is the most populous black nation on the planet, and you won't expect any less. The talents are there. It's only the problem is that up till now, that the entertainment industry was not properly organized. So what we need now, that probably the government has realized that recently, they're trying to create a framework for empowering creatives, the creative people. So what the Nigerian entertainment industry needs right now is organization, and we can take the world.
So far, 10 Nigerian musicians, including Burna Boy and Terms, have won the prestigious Grammy Award.
So fresh, so clean, love me in and out, I'm feeling me.
Go on back. Grammys, how you feeling tonight? I need you to get up out your seats immediately.
The art and music sector is a significant job creator, employing more than 4.2 million people, as reported in January 2025, with projections suggesting that this figure could grow to 2.7 million additional jobs if its potentialities are fully realized. The last 65 years has witnessed a considerable decline in sectional consciousness, unlike the first Republican political parties, which were largely regionally based. The absence of true national parties at that time was informed by the desire of desperate ethno-religious groups to maintain their own identities in a highly divided and fiercely competitive political environment. This was an ugly state of affairs that injected bad blood into the nation's military hierarchy and its underpinning stage of democratic evolution. It prompted the many incidents that triggered the Nigerian Civil War. Fortunately, the situation has improved significantly with the passage of time. Today, political parties can boast of members that cut across all parts of the country, galvanizing Nigerians regardless of their religious and ethnic backgrounds to vie for the control of the reins of power through party politics.
It's not easy for a country to fight internal war, like what you may call Nigerian Civil War, 1967 to 1970, and still come back together united and stronger. And I think very few countries have succeeded in doing that. Many countries have been fragmented, even those that we had independence together. And those that had independence after us, many of them are not together today. But through the grace of God, Nigeria has remained together and united, and we are even getting more united.
The social change sweeping through the Federal Republic of Nigeria is such that the country now has multi-party system with dominant and minor parties that are influential in shaping the country's political future. The ruling APC has the largest National Assembly seat, followed by the main opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP. There are also other smaller but influential parties like the Labour Party, New Nigerian People's Party, All Progressive Grand Alliance, Social Democratic Party, all of which have representation at various tiers of government. The positive outcome of this new outlook on national politics is that the country has witnessed 26 years of civilian rule without military intervention in the political administration of the country. For the first time in 1993, Nigerians jettisoned a culture of sectional consciousness when they massively voted for the Muslim ticket of Chief M.K.O. Abiola and Ambassador Babagana Kingibe. 30 years after, in 2023, Nigerians again discountenanced ethno-religious sentiments by identifying with another Muslim ticket held by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima. Indeed, Nigeria's march towards nationhood deeply reflects our social history, which has given the country the opportunity to learn from past mistakes by implementing policies that promote national integration and the citizens' collective identity of a democratic society. The developments and growth of broadcasting in any nation is in tandem with the nation's development vis-a-vis its technological advancements. Shortly after independence in 1961, the federal government had established the Voice of Nigeria as an external service of Radio Nigeria. Over the years, broadcasting has grown from a single government-owned station, Radio Nigeria and NTA era, to a stage of multiple and privately owned stations. This was made possible by the establishment of the National Broadcasting Commission in 1992, by Decree 38 of 1992, later amended as an Act of the National Assembly by Act 55 of 1999. With it came the establishment of the National Broadcasting Commission, which has so far midwifed the birth of about 740 radio and television stations in the country as at 2023. Apart from widening the window through which individuals see and share in the happenings around them and participate in national discourse, liberalization of the industry has deepened the nation's democracy.
Before 1992, there was only government station. And when I say government station, whether it is state or federal, government is government. But now there were other stations and other interests that came in. And so people now had more platforms.
This apart, the industry has slapped up a chunk of unemployed Nigerians off the streets as it has engaged them either as full-time employees or independent producers.
When employment is provided, you realize that those who are employed will pay taxes. They will pay their taxes. Government will use the taxes to provide services to the citizenry. And when employment is provided, there's what we call multiplier effect. You will get your salary, use your salary to go and buy food. The person that you are buying the food from will use the money to go and pay school fees. The person who received the money will use the money to go and do some other thing. That is a multiplier effect.
Unlike what obtained at pre-independence, when the press was combative and confrontational against colonialism in its fight for the nation's independence, the press changed its disposition after 1960, getting down to playing its traditional roles. In this regard, it availed the nation opportunity for information, education, and entertainment. Few years on, the industry, in response to the nation's socio-economic advancements, expanded.
When Yakubu Gowon created states just to mellow down the tension of the war, the agitation for the split of the country, the states started having their own newspapers. Almost every state in Nigeria had newspapers at that time. Some had radio, but television was still a long way off. The involvement of the private entrepreneurs now opened up the space for commercialization.
As would be expected, the developments offered employment opportunities to many Nigerians. Another glorious moment for the Nigerian press was in 1987, when Repu, then the editor-in-chief and co-founder of Nationhood magazine, won the International Editor of the Year award in New York, United States of America. Many Nigerians have given the nation a strong representation and a voice, not just a voice, but a voice that commands respect on the global stage. One of them in the Old Testament of the nation's history was the late Sir Justice Ebed Dodoma, who, after serving for 13 years as a justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, became the Chief Judge of Uganda from 1963 to 1969. He was among the first Black Africans to bag a PhD in law in 1944 from the Oxford University. Also in this class were Alhaji Maitama Sule, CFR, who, as Nigeria's permanent representative at the United Nations, was a dogged fighter against apartheid. Joseph Gauba, CFR, a general, politician and diplomat who served as president of the United Nations General Assembly between 1989 and 1990. His successor in office, Ibrahim Gambari, and former External Affairs Minister, Bolaji Akinyemi. Among those in the New Testament are Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, who until this year was the president of the African Development Bank, where he championed Africa's economic transformation. His bold initiatives on food security, climate financing, and infrastructural development underscored Nigeria's enduring contributions to Africa's growth story. At the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala makes history as its first female Director General. From Geneva, she spearheads reforms in global trade, advocating for fairness, inclusivity, and opportunities for developing nations, placing Nigeria at the center of international trade diplomacy. And in this year, a new chapter was written when Mariam Bukar Hassan, a Nigerian poet and humanitarian, emerged as the first United Nations global advocate for peace and security.
I speak as a global peace advocate, not because peace is easy, but because silence is complicity, and so I will not be silent.
These milestones reflect more than personal triumphs. They are national victories, affirming Nigeria's influence in shaping the global agenda. Nigeria has charted a remarkable economic journey from a colonial outpost to Africa's largest economy. The transformation has been shaped by bold reforms, sectoral shifts, and a resilient population determined to redefine the nation's destiny. Nigeria's GDP, which stood at less than 5 billion at independence, today exceeds 360 billion. This growth reflects not only the expansion of national output, but also a steady rise in GDP per capita, signaling improved productivity and more diversified economy. The early decades were anchored in agriculture, cocoa, groundnuts, and palm oil dominated exports, sustaining livelihoods and driving rural economies. Over time, agriculture ceded grounds to oil and gas, which emerged as the backbone of national revenue. The discovery and commercialization of crude oil in the Niger Delta sparked an economic boom in the 70s, reshaping Nigeria's fiscal landscape and funding ambitious infrastructure projects. Monetary policy evolved. The introduction of the Naira in a decimal currency system in 1973 marked a step towards financial sovereignty.
The change over to decimal currency
is a revolutionary step in modernization as it directly affects every man, woman, and child in this country. A lot of questions have been asked about the introduction of the decimal currency system in Nigeria. You are fully aware of the advantages of the system, which has been adopted all over the world. We want to keep pace with modern trends and to ensure that our international trade is not in any way jeopardized by using any archaic currency system. Furthermore, our children should not continue to be unnecessarily saddled with a difficult system like the old pound, shillings, and pence in their calculations.
Our naira sovereignty was also given to us. We are not using shilling, we are not using pounds as supposed to be. The sovereignty is there. The only thing is that Nigeria is not taking advantage of the West Africa. Nothing stops the West Africa from using naira. Nothing stops the West Africa from using one single currency.
Subsequent central banking reforms strengthened Nigeria's monetary framework, helping to manage inflation and support macroeconomic stability. By 1990s, the economy began to pivot. Structural reforms liberalized key sectors, opening the door to private investment and competition. The telecommunication revolution of the early 2000s connected millions, while banking reforms stabilized the financial system and expanded access to credit. These changes laid the foundation for a vibrant service sector, now a major contributor to GDP. From the fledgling steps at independence in 1960 to the brisk stride of today's Nigeria, the journey of nationhood has been marked by resilience, reinvention, and remarkable progress. In the face of adversity, Nigerians have built bridges across cultures, pioneered innovations, and redefined what it means to be united in diversity. The gains of nationhood are not just measured in infrastructure or policy, but in the spirit of a people who continue to rise, dream, and shape their destiny. As Nigeria steps boldly into the future, its story remains unfinished, written daily by the hands of its citizens on the palms, guided by hope and driven by the promise of greatness.
I can see that farm products will come back. I can see that food will return to the table, and many families will be able to eat 3 times a day. I see a lot of Nigerians becoming self-employed in the tech industry. I see AI being a major employment of Nigerian children. I see us even thinking of attempting the spacewalk. Nigeria will be great.
Everything that has a beginning has an end. Only God has no beginning and no end. We had different crises in the past and were able to overcome. And whatever crisis we have in the country today, by the grace of God, we will one day overcome. And Nigeria will come to be one great country, united, prosperous, economically strong, with a political clout. And Nigeria, by the grace of God, will one day take her proper place in the Committee of Nations, will lead the Africans, will inspire the blacks all over the world. This is my prayer.